Hi there, I'm here with Rafael. He's the developer of the new tool for mGear, the RBF Manager. And but first of all, before make the presentation, we would like to thank Ingo. He's the master and chief of the RBF solver, and he helped a lot on this project.
Yeah, he's been very helpful, and we just want to say thank you for all the emails back and forth to help us get up to speed with his weighted driver node from Shapes. So.
And okay, I let you to present the tool, and
sure.
Probably I will make the silly questions.
All right, no problem. Okay, so here we have a scene that is already been. Which is the end result of the RBF Manager. And an RBF Manager, as we have it here, is to just help to designate a driver node and have that drive or put into position any number of nodes that you so choose. So the idea is if you have, in this example that we'll be showing you, you have a leg, and as it rotates to hit a certain point, say 90 degrees, it will output any number of poses that you've recorded up to 90 degrees or a little bit beyond. It's always interpolating between.
Yeah, it's well, basically what it does, it's interpolate between a number of arbitrary positions, and you have a driver that it can be n channels, and a driven that can be n channels, and it's going to interpolate. That is the RBF kernel is what it does. I think it's better to go to show something working there, so it's going to be clear what it's doing. I mean, this is not something new. There's been some demos there on the interwebs for a long time, but actually it's not too many managers like this.
Yeah, and our approach or mGear's approach to how we're going to be using RBF nodes is to make it easier to manage any number or a large number of driven objects designated under a setup. And a setup is just an arbitrary name that you choose just to help you organize things. So like in the example that we have here, we have two setups. We have skirt left and skirt right. And you can see that we already have some setup where as the leg, I'm going to remove this. So as she goes ahead and moves her leg around, we can see that we have the controls that govern the skirt, like so, are already being driven depending on whatever position that the leg finds itself in.
Yeah, it's like a next level set driving key system. If you want to think like that, it's maybe easier for make some picture to picture there.
Yeah, to picture it, I think that's a easy way to convey the idea of what we're trying to do here. So you can see that we already have. I think it's probably best visualized if we put it in OK, and then we can see.
Yeah, sorry, my mouse is really not so.
So nice. It's a smaller portable mouse. But yeah, so okay. So here we are. We can see this will be the end result of a setup. Just something that the animators because you do have the control to dial it in per control.
Yeah, and
turn this guy off.
Also, you can keep animating your control separately. So this is an extra layer that it's been added there. So if you drive the control with this, it's not gonna be locked. You can keep animating this.
So the animators or anyone will just have full control of how much the pose is dialed in as to when it was recorded.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But let's go ahead and start from a new scene so we can show you how we would go ahead and start creating some poses.
Yeah. One of the things I like more of this tool, and this is something that we try to do in all the mGear tools, it's that you can serialize the configuration to later rebuild, or reuse in another character. So that's a very important point here, and this tool does also that.
Yeah, everything that you see here can be exported, and Marin will be going over those functions. Simply the export all will export all setups as they exist in the scene, export current setup if you should have one selected in our scene, which we don't currently because we haven't created any yet. That would export that one, and then import would just import anything from a file and recreate the setups, and then the UI would refresh and you would see.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe you hear some noises. It looks like it's making renovations.
We have perfect timing, construction in the background. We're sorry about that. Okay, let's see. So here for what's going to be driving our setup is going to be the left leg. Right? And we're going to want to make sure we select the control. So if you have a control inputted into the UI, as you're recording positions, any attributes that you've selected in this UI. So for our setup, we're going to be using rotate. These positions will be recorded from your control and stored along with the pose information should you wish to recall poses for editing or just to see, just to double check things, right? So, okay, here we go. And now if I try to create a new one and I don't have a driven object selected because I forgot, it's going to complain at you. I'm going to make sure to turn off joints. Don't need visibility.
I have a. That's okay.
Oh, sorry.
I have a shortcut there. Yeah, you can go with the interface also.
All right, so then let's see, create new, and then only if you don't have any pre-existing setups in the scene, it'll prompt you to input a name, and you want to make sure to follow the same naming convention that mGear has established already, and then you select.
Well, I'm a shifter to be more specific.
Sure,
yeah,
shifter.
It's very. Yeah, obviously you can use it with any rig, but because we have shifter in place, we try to make it much easier if you use shifter.
Sure, consistency wherever we can.
Yeah, exactly.
So then we select the controls that we wish to be driven on this node, and then you can see that what we get here. Now, upon creating any new or adding any new driver to a setup, you will get a default pose of 0. That's so that way, the RBF node related to what's being driven has somewhere to start from. There's always a little bit more
it's
consistency.
like the bind pose or the reset pose. So pose 0 is the reset, the neutral. There is nothing there triggering any value. It's going to be triggered.
Exactly, yeah. And what's important is that at this table at the top here, what we have is the driven values as they are coming from the driver node.
Yeah, sorry, it looks like a joke. It's making.
Yeah,
it looks like it's making the noise on the.
Anyway,
sorry guys.
So in this top table here, we have the driven values as they're coming from our driver. What's important is that we can never record the same pose twice. So in this instance where it's zeroed out, because that's the default pose that we've been given, we can't record 2 zeroed positions, or if we, for example, lifted the leg to be at 90, we wouldn't record two poses at that same position, because that will result in our weighted driver node failing to calculate. So if you find yourself that you need to edit an existing pose, you can do that. You can recall the pose, and then you can edit.
Exactly. So don't try to override it brute force.
Yeah.
You recall it and you edit.
So then I'm going to go ahead and add another control to the setup.
So also I would like to talk a little bit about the workflow while you're doing it. So please do it. So one of the things that we did here on the RBF is that we bypass for you what is being driven with the control, so you can very intuitively edit your controls directly. So it's what it's doing Rafael now.
So in a normal, say SDK, the most similar thing to this setup, if you were doing an SDK directly to the node, you'd find that it would be. So if I select here, you'll find that all these edit fields, you can click on them for convenience, right? So while the control here that we've selected to be the driven is free of any inputs, the group above it, which we create for you, has the connections that you've selected in the UI. So that way the control itself remains free for you to select and manipulate, and then we find that's a more intuitive type of setup.
So basically what you can do is you pose your control, you set a new pose, and it's gonna zero out the pose and store the information on the node above.
Yep, exactly. So let's go ahead and start recording a pose.
Okay, so let's do one.
So we'll go ahead here, add a pose, and then we're gonna
So we are doing now like 2 controls at a time, but we can do more than 2.
Sure, yeah, you can do any number of controls at a given time. So let's say, okay, this is what I like right there.
One thing, it's the middle control on this curve, the center one. It's being driven by the left and right, so it's not being driven by the RBF. That's something we already put in place before this demo.
Yeah. So you can see here as I position her leg up, you know, I know that I want to move the control on the side as well, just to make sure that we're not getting too much stretching. That would be, you know, aesthetically not pleasing. So go ahead and you move that into position, and you hit add, and then every time you add or edit or delete, all the nodes that are under the setup, as you can see in these tabs, they're always in sync. So they'll always have the same number of recorded poses, even if we haven't directly edited them.
Yeah, it's kind of a normalized number of poses. So everybody has the same poses, so everybody can recall the same poses. So it's not like mismatching.
Yeah. So you can see here, if I go ahead and zero back out, you can see that I already started to record a pose.
Yeah.
And then you can see that's both controls that are being moved. Now, let's say and this has already happened to me, where, you know, I've already started recording a pose, and I find that, you know, perhaps I don't find the stretching in the back to be ideal. Well, you can still add.
Yeah. So first thing, what you will do is add the RBF there. So this doesn't need to be in the neutral?
No, it doesn't need to be in the neutral.
Oh, cool.
So you can go ahead and select a new object that you find that you want driven. You forgot to add it for some reason.
Yeah, so that's super great.
And then it's added to your setup, and it's important that it will copy over, or, you know, it will copy over all the driven information. So the driver, it'll just ensuring that the
normalization that we talked before, like it's gonna have the same inputs even if you started halfway the setup. It will have the same number of poses.
Yes, it'll still have the same number of poses and the same number of driven information. Now the information or the outgoing information can be the same or repeated 0. You know, you don't have to record something.
Yeah, exactly. So the input, it cannot be twice the same, but the output can be as many times as we want.
Because you'll find here that although I've added this control late, you know, it still matches up with the number of poses recorded. And now if I found myself that let's go back to, so at any time you can just recall any pose that you've created before. So let's say I find this one, okay, and I do want to move this one just a little bit. I do want to move this one just a little bit, just to make sure that the stretching is
nice.
Yeah. So then you just hit edit, and that'll go ahead and record the new information.
That's it?
Yeah,
so that's done.
And that's it, and it's done. You can see here on the table the information that you've recorded, and that's pretty much it. So we'll go ahead and add. We'll just go ahead and just do. Great.
Okay, so
we'll go ahead and do the side here.
Let's do a few more just to keep the demo short. So you said one just there to define the contacts. You are not moving, just defining the contact position, so it gets a much more nicer movement now.
Yeah. So let's say here you'll notice that there is one thing that I do want to explain. There's an option on how you record your poses. So if, for example, if I were to, you can see here that the RBF nodes are always interpolating poses in space, right? So even though I haven't recorded any space pose over here, you'll see that we're getting a slight movement on the skirt. Now, the default behavior is to record world position of the control upon adding a pose. If I found myself that I'm only going to move one control, such as this one, and I don't feel the need to, obviously we can, you know, for the example, we'll leave the front one there, but I don't feel like moving the front one, and all I'm going to do is move this one right here. If I were to go to the settings and turn off add poses in world space, what this will do is it'll add a pose, and you'll see that that snapped right there. And because there was no information on the skirt, on this control at the time that it went to record a pose, it zeroed it out. But upon editing it, or upon adding it, I find that I would much prefer to have something there, so I can just go, and I think that's better.
It basically reset the position at the base, so avoiding the extra movement that you get.
Yeah. if you found yourself that you wanted to
that's
control
not
that.
something that you want to do always, but sometimes it can be very handy.
Yeah, it's much more of a convenience thing. We fully expect everyone to use it with add poses in world space turned on. That is the recommended usage. So then let's go ahead and we'll add one last pose so we don't run on too long here. And we're going to go ahead and, oops, sorry about that. We're going to head and add the back.
So basically, you go to the position, you place your controls, push the button, and it's done.
Yeah.
So that's simplified like that. It's a very
yeah, sorry about that. There we go.
And add a new pose, and that's it.
And that's it. And at any time, I can go ahead and recall any of the poses that I've done. And one of the things to note is that, again, normally as you're using the UI, the edit and delete pose options will just be disabled, just to make sure that when you're editing, that it's directly the pose, and it's just a convenience thing to make sure that if you wanted to go back to this first pose right here, that you're recording it at exactly what you initially did.
Yeah, to make like maybe a small errors that creates a new poses and creates like kind of a noise on the interpolation.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, and then at any time, if I wanted, like you can see here, there's some right-click menus. If you wanted to select, this is the actual weighted driver node or RBF node that's that we've used for the setup.
If you close a tab, you actually delete in the RBF.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and let's say
just don't not.
Sure, I'll show you on the mirror then. So let's say we are happy with what we have thus far, right? This simple little interpolation right there, and we want to mirror this over.
Yeah.
All right. So we select the setup. This is the one we have. Mirror, and you'll see that it'll run through the poses and apply them to the other side, already done. And then we're going to switch over. Right, and you can see it's the same information, and we used the same mirror functionality from our Synoptic.
Yes, exactly. So here, this is something that we only tested with the shifter rigs, and every control in the shifter rig has a special attribute that defines which axis must be inverted for the mirror.
Yeah.
So this is not something that we can guarantee is going to work in other rigs. But if you do a little research, you can add this attribute because it's just a simple Boolean attribute with a specific name, and it should work. I mean, it's just like, you need to have this underlying configuration, so it relies on that.
Yeah. All right, and then now that we have more driven nodes than we need, let's say that I no longer need this one. So you go to remove the tab, it'll confirm that you want to delete this node and the poses associated with that driven object, and that's it. It'll go ahead, update, refresh, and any attributes that you can see here, like the RBF multiplier, are removed from the control. And then that's it. It's clean.
That's fantastic. So
some other things, just in case, just some convenience functions.
Reevaluate to force all.
Force all the RBF nodes in the scene to just reevaluate. That's just to say, like, if you updated any of these attributes manually, you want to make sure.
So you always can input manually data.
Exactly. You can. These nodes not only represent to you like what's going on the RBF node, but they are actually connected to the RBF node. So if you wanted to get in there and really dial in these values, you can do that.
Yeah, it's like code in there, but
yeah,
I guess it's.
Everyone loves a little spreadsheet action, so that is available to you. So should you choose, and then if sorry about that. So then if you wanted to go ahead and just export, you would just choose a path. Let's just say desktop's fine.
That's desktop. Yeah.
Skirt setups. And that's it. It's exported to a JSON file.
Yeah, and you can delete this and reveal it, or if you have another character with the same like reconfiguration, but maybe another character, you can import it, or use it for shifter with the custom steps, so you can rebuild there.
Yeah,
so that's fantastic, man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
A brief overview of what's possible in the RBF Manager. Again, thanks to Ingo for helping set all this up.
It's the I don't know how to say, like base stone of
the keystone of the
keystone.
little project that we have here. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, one thing is the RBF manager it's open to support in the future other RBFs.
Yeah, that's we can obviously go over that in the documentation, but the manner in which that the RBF manager was written is the idea that every type of RBF node gets a class that normalizes the calls to it. So if you found yourself you wanted to use Maya's built-in
interface.
Yeah, you have a common interface and the tools necessary to normalize the calls between multiple types of RBF nodes. So the first one again is the weighted driver from Ingo, but there are plans to eventually support the one that ships with Maya.
And just one more thing that I almost forget, and it's very important: the RBF driver is not going to be bundled with mGear.
Yes.
So you need to go to the Ingo website with braverabbit.com/shapes, if I recall correctly. I will put it on the description of this video. And you need to download from him the driver.
Yes.
It's free, and you have it compiled for all the Maya versions and all the OS that probably you will need. So you just need to go there and get it. But it's not bundled with mGear, so be sure you have it before trying this tool, because if not, it's not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Until we, of course, eventually add support for Maya's built-in, but until then, you do want to make sure to head over there.
Yeah, for us, the RBF from Ingo is the go-to. The go-to.
Yep.
So we are not planning to implement another one for the moment.
Yep.
But if you want, it's there and you can do it. So don't be shy.
Yeah, so hopefully this video wasn't too long. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And thank you.
Thank you for listening. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.